Hi there.
Hi guys, Grace Chad's here.
So we were just talking about how do we confront bias, comments, cruelty, how do we get comfortable addressing people who are making egregious comments, making racist comments, making unkind comments, and I think there's this big disconnect that happens between like I read this and I understand this and I know this, but now I'm in the grocery store and this thing has happened in front of me, and now what am I really gonna do?
Right. It's very easy to say what you would do until you're put in that position, and who knows, maybe shock takes over, or you are afraid to start something, and so we are our goal from this video is to address that. Guess what? When you first decide, when you're in a situation like that and you first decide, hey, I'm gonna speak up and I'm gonna say something, it's not gonna be perfect.
Yeah, you're gonna completely make a mistake. I mean, I'm thinking back to a couple of years ago now when I confronted a security guard who was harassing 3 young black boys in the mall, and the way I would handle that situation now, with years of experience under my belt, is entirely different than, I blabbered all over myself. I don't know if what I said to those young boys was appropriate. I could go through and think of all the ways I would construct it differently, but you will never get better without practice.
That's right.
You're totally gonna make a mistake. You're totally gonna say it wrong. It's just part of it. You'll be fine.
Saying something is better than saying nothing. When you say nothing and allow it to slide, you are basically condoning it. You are being complacent, and you're not making any sort of difference. Whereas if you at least try and attempt to stand up and step up, I'm sure you'll feel good about yourself. We've all been in those situations where we said, oh, why didn't I say something? Don't let that happen. Even if you just say that's not okay. I think sometimes we feel like we have to have the statistics and the understanding and the phrases and the words, and those aren't all gonna come to you in that moment. I just had an experience last week, right, where I had a person at my home doing some work, and the person made a comment, and I have that you have that moment in your belly. You're like, you hear that comment. He made a negative comment against immigrant workers, and we were having camaraderie and we were having a negotiation, and my roof was pulled apart, and I had to make a decision in that moment. And you will feel this weird feeling up the back of your legs or wherever you feel you're like, whoa, I'm going in. Yep. There's no turning back now. There's no turning back now.
And so I just simply said, hey, I'd like to go back to that comment. And I just kind of did a little bit of educating and a little bit of consider what this sounds like. And he thanked me, and we ended up okay. But look, change is disruptive. Understanding and learning and shifting things. I think somewhere along the way, some of us who are white, we feel like if we do it right, then no one will be angry. That's just not possible.
But in that moment though, there's no such thing as doing it right. There's doing something, and then there's doing nothing. And that's the choice that you face. So in the wake of the Philando Castile verdict here, so it's Monday, and we got the verdict here on Friday afternoon, late afternoon, and I had several people reach out to me and say, well, what can we do? What should we do? What can we do? That's a very simple way to start, I think, is just don't let things slide. Call people out on their BS,
And I'm just going to take a minute to talk to white people here for a minute. In all white spaces, we have privy to, or we have access to, the kinds of comments that we know people will say. So
you may not live in a diverse community like we chose to do, where you're interacting with people of color all the time, and I have more experiences, maybe, but you have all white spaces. So to my white friends watching this, you have to make a conscious decision about whether you're going to let those little, like, look, it's 2017. Most people aren't saying the really egregious things. There are people who are doing that, but it's the kind of little subtle, those people, this, that.
Those little digs.
There's little covert racism built in between all of the conversations, and you have to decide if you are going to choose your own comfort, because, you know, when we make those little digs and those little comments and we're all silent and we all let that happen, that gives that other person a little more bravery, a little bit more of their story, a little bit more permission to take that thought process out into the next interaction.
Yeah.
So when I speak to someone in a grocery store, when I speak to someone in line, my motivation is always like, maybe I can influence this conversation for the very next person. Maybe that person leaves my front porch, and maybe he doesn't make that next joke to the next migrant worker.
Exactly. That's what we're going for here. Just like Myrna said, putting pebbles in people's shoes, right? You just want to put a pebble in their shoe.
Don't fall into the trap of winning the whole argument. Don't fall into the trap of, like, now I have to be right and I have to pull out my documentaries and my books and I have to teach all of these things. But make one comment. Make one comment that makes you want to throw up with fear. That's a great invitation.
But let me ask you a question, though.
Yeah.
In all of those situations, because I know this woman doesn't let anything slide, let me tell you, but in all those times that you make those comments or that you don't let things slide, how do you feel after the fact?
I mean, honestly, sometimes I doubt myself. Sometimes I go back and I think I should have said this word differently or this. And sometimes I'm...
But do you ever regret, like,
never.
Oh, I wish I didn't say anything? And that's what
I've regretted not saying things.
Oh, so you regret being quiet?
I've always regretted being quiet. Yeah,
Okay.
I can always think back to the things that I let slide, especially that happened around my children. I very much regret letting those things slide. And the little comments were only making the way for the bigger, more overt comments that eventually came out.
That came your way.
So I maybe swallowed things because they weren't quite there, but then eventually something did come out that was quite there, and I had to confront that. So I was buying time. I wasn't.
So you could have addressed it initially, or you wait and it festers and it comes out in a bigger way. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so,
but it didn't fix itself. It wasn't like that person who made that questionable comment became, if you're not going to change anything, you're not going to change a person by, like, letting stuff slide. So eventually they're going to continue to make a comment that is going to be like, well, no, that's when I can't let go.
Right.
So why not hold people accountable for the little ones?
Exactly. That's what I think people need to become more okay with, you know, just getting over that initial fear of doing it. I don't know. I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, thanks for putting yourself out there. Thanks for being vulnerable. And while it's nice to be appreciated, at the same time, what other choice do I have right now?
I
need to put myself out here because this situation is not getting better and I'm terrified. And I made a video last week after the Castile verdict and just pure raw emotion and crooked wig, snot, everything. Like, not, it wasn't pretty, but I had to put out there how I feel. And I just feel for the Castile family because, you know, I'm going to use her words, Valerie Castile's words. If you saw her video that she made in her car, she said, now I'm part of this fucked up mothers club. And those words, like, have just stayed with me since I watched that video. And I can't stop thinking about her. I can't stop thinking about how her and her family life has changed, how they will never see their son again, how the Yanez my personal opinion is that I had somebody tell me on Friday, well, there are two families that are grieving right now, the Yanez family and the Castile family. And I said very respectfully, I don't feel like the Yanez family is grieving, because there was no conviction for him. He is free. He gets to be with his family. He gets to be with his wife and kids. He gets to go on with life as usual. Right, his heart is still beating. I'm so broken right now. Because I don't... What does this mean? Does this mean it's just going to happen again, and then we continue to gather and say we need this to stop, and then it happens again and we gather and this needs to stop? It's like a perpetual cycle, this vicious cycle that we're in. Like, if you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk too.
Yeah, and I think too, people are like, I get private messages once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh, you're so brave, and like, I don't feel called or qualified to take the risk. Look, there's nothing special about leaders. There's nothing special about the two of us other than, I mean, the fact that we aren't afraid to take a risk.
Mm-hmm.
That we aren't afraid to be raw and vulnerable, but
we've also reached our breaking point, though. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, we're done. So that's why we're putting ourselves out there, right? At least I know that's why I'm doing it. I'm done. So I'm going to take every opportunity I get. I'm going to put myself out there.
I don't really know what else. I mean, I don't want to answer that, but I mean, and so I
Well,
don't
wait a
know.
second. Why didn't you want to answer that?
Well, no, I was just going to say, I don't really know what else we have to lose, but then I was immediately thinking, well, but there is a lot more to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, besides, but I mean, I guess I mean, like, socially, as a white woman, I think I've risked it all. But I'm,
Can you speak to this? That, so on Saturday we had a gathering, like I was telling you, just to talk and whatnot, again, in the wake of the verdict, and a woman had said that, you know, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but she's like afraid of losing her social circle. Should she speak up? Okay, then lose them then. You can make new friends then. If that's really genuinely your fear, that you might lose some friends because you speak up for the right thing, maybe those people aren't good friends. I don't know. Am I making it too, like, am I making it sound too simple? Like,
well, but it is. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to take those risks and to challenge the social norm. It's incredibly challenging. I stayed awake many nights worrying, wondering, thinking. However, I think looking at myself in the mirror and knowing that I'm doing what I can do, and that I'm not putting my own safety and security first, is much easier. It's much easier this way. I'd rather go down knowing that I used my privilege than held it. Dang.
yeah.
I'd rather know that. I mean, the reality is, if you made these videos by yourself, there's a different level, right?
Oh, I know there's an audience I'm exposed to all because of you. I told you, there over the weekend, 4 people friended me, right? And I generally will accept friend requests if we have a mutual friend in common. And those 4 people, like I told you, you were what we had in common. So I accepted those friend requests. I mean, and I feel as though any person who's a friend of Heather's is a friend of mine, for sure. But we've been doing these, we've done like 13 videos, you know what I mean? But somehow the video that I made, that you shared, resonated with those women, and they wanted to be connected. Oh,
It's okay. We can still keep going.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself right now, June 19th, 2017. This will not get better without you. It takes every single one of us. Challenge yourself to do something, because I don't want to be continually making videos and saying we're talking about another person that has been killed by the police who was most likely unarmed, or you know what I mean? Just it's like you just said in the car a little bit ago. Every time, all of the names